Thank you, President. Look, I'd rise to speak about the disarray in our land use planning system at the moment under the Minister for Planning, as highlighted by the amazing backflip of Olympic gymnastics proportions in relation to the Charles Street upgrade. I'm sure I could imagine, the phone call coming through from the Prime Minister's office and thinking, oh, the Prime Minister's calling me up, this is fantastic. Picks up the phone, oh, it's not the Prime Minister, it's actually the Secretary for the Prime Minister, the Parliamentary Secretary, Patrick Gorman. What are you doing, the Honourable Rita Sapiotti? What are you doing? You're upsetting all my constituents there in the division of Perth. You're really upsetting them. What are you doing? And next minute the phone's popping up, and it's the Minister for Housing, the Honourable John Carey popping up on the phone. Oh, I'm very popular today. Oh, what are you doing? The City of Vincent is up in arms. All my friends and colleagues there are just ready to, sign up to the Greens Party. Who knows? But they're ready to walk. And so I can just see the panic. Suddenly, the panic striking the Minister. The panic striking the Minister and saying, all that innovation, all that creativity suddenly gets thrown out the window. All I say to the Minister for Planning, talk to your chairperson of the Planning Commission, sit down with the Planning Commission, sit down with the land use planners, the experts, and who have done so many good pieces of work. And we're about to see off the Honourable Alana McTiernan, who was at least a consultative and inclusive Minister for Planning. I went along to that huge workshop she ran with Network Cities as a public servant many years ago, and I was very impressed by the way that Minister included people to talk about how the city should look. We have to address this. And sometimes governments have to make hard decisions. And we're not going to come out and criticise the Charles Street program because, you could argue for the duck and dive structures. Planners don't really like the dive structures because they do tend to, create this isolation and around areas, but there was a lot of great graphics there. Again, a lot of expensive work done. But the problem, the fundamental issue was that the planners, the land use planners, should have gone and had some gentle discussions with the community. There should have been the involvement of the Planning Commission, and I don't know to what extent the Planning Commission, every time I ask about this, I find that they're less and less involved. There should have been involvement because there's a mechanism within the Metropolitan Region Scheme to enable for a gentle way of buying up land, buying up houses over time, buying up the land that you need, voluntarily acquiring it, and I saw that process happen on the Great Eastern Highway. When that road was widened, about 60% of properties had already been acquired, and it meant that the community basically was already on board for that change. We have to think long term, we have to think in terms of strategic land use planning. Minister Sapiotti, strategic land use planning. I don't think it's part of the vocabulary of the Minister. I don't think the Minister actually understands what that actually means. You're not like up there with some great big lever and just pulling it up and ringing up the Commissioner for Main Roads and putting together a plan and ramming it through because you're worried about a bit of congestion. You've got to be strategic about these things, and you've got to bring your people on board, the community on board, and particularly your parliamentary colleagues on board, and particularly your cabinet colleagues on board, and particularly, I dare I say, your federal colleagues on board, because I would suggest there's been some harsh words being put back to the Minister. I would suggest that's occurred because suddenly with this massive backflip of Olympic proportions, deserved of a gold medal on the terms of backflip. But we can speak lightly. I really hope that the Minister now learns a lesson, gets involved, gets the experts down, sits down, because we need this link to work. I could read so much because it's all out there in the transcript of that video, because it's vital for our city of 3.5 million. It's vital to enable our public transport system to work well. It's vital to enable all of those things, but also to enable our general transport network operate efficiently and well.